You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, baseball fans? Right here on Locked On Marlins Postcast, Locked On Phillies Postcast. We are crossing over. That's right. We just did it with LA, with Pete Fox, and now we're doing it with Philly, with Marc Farzetta. Farzy, I am Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries. And Marlins fans, some things never change. The Marlins lost again 8-3 to the Phillies. And yes, Philly fans, some things never change. The Phillies won again. Mark, what is it now? Since August, I did some research and I did some prep work. Lost art these days in our industry, right? First of all, it's great to work with you, brother. The Phillies win again, ho-hum, right? But since April 15th, the Phillies are 19-4, man. They had a 7-game win streak. They lose 2. They win 4 in a row. They lose 1. They win 7 in a row. They lose 1. They win yesterday, and here they are again today. They've been the model of consistency since April 15th, and again today, back in the win column. And one thing that stood out to me, continuing a recent trend for the Marlins, the last couple of games of that Dodgers series, Betts and Shohei were 1 for 13. Well, today, Bryce Harper 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. It doesn't matter because great Stott took over with the bat in this game.
Now, first of all, let me just say thank you for that warm intro to the Philadelphia Phillies season. I was just going to let you keep on going until you got to that Bryce Harper 0 for 4 little tangent. But I'll tell you this.
I was hoping for the DoorDash cheesesteak to come, right? You know what I mean? They do sponsor the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. It's been an amazing start to this Phillies season. Just comment on that real quick. I mean, you're talking about this Phillies team hasn't done stuff like this since 1983, since 1976. You look at 1993, we're talking about the start of the season. This is not something that we're used to in Philadelphia. And something also we're not used to, per se, is beating the Marlins, unfortunately. And not to belittle the Marlins at all, but in talking to some great baseball people over the years, they always talk about the NL East. It comes down to who's going to beat the Marlins, who's going to beat the Mets. In some instances, who's going to beat the Nationals, who's going to beat the Phillies. Like, you got to win. You got to win against those teams to make sure you can lock up the division. The Braves have certainly done a great job of that, which is why they keep on winning the division, just ahead of the Phillies. But I got to say, Jesus Luzardo. Oh, my goodness gracious. That slider.
Man, the opening day starter, he deserved better than he got today, right? And he's coming off the IL. We can't call it the DL anymore. He's coming off the IL, right? And looking good. And that slider is filthy, man. I mean, it's good to hear you say that. Where would you rate that slider with all this lefty starters you've seen this year? It's nasty.
I mean, it's we up there. I mean, we benefit by watching Ranger Suarez, who you, of course, saw last night. And I think both teams benefited for a while from him. Yeah, from a very wide strike zone in last night's game that, of course, went to the Phillies, but that was a wild strike zone. But you look at the changeup and the curveball, the 12-6 curveball from a guy like Ranger Suarez that he uses as a put-away pitch. Luzardo's right up there with that slider, and you saw a number of guys just gone fishing, no pun intended, against guys like Bryce Harper, especially going 0 for 4 and a couple of strikeouts, many times swinging well outside the strike zone. That's a brag to strike out a guy like Bryce Harper. To strike out a guy like Edmundo Sosa, for instance, who's on the other side of the plate there, not exactly being able to make contact with that slider throughout the game tonight. That was a little bit of a struggle for the Phils. But Jesus Luzardo coming into the game tonight and just sticking with the bread and butter for him, and guys just weren't able to figure it out. You're right.
Good, man. Yeah. 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs. One of them, Maldonado actually gave up. The runner he was responsible for. Luzardo was responsible for the runner, but it was Maldonado who gave it up. And Luzardo, like we've seen with Cabrera recently, like we've seen, with some of the other young starters for the Marlins recently, you see those glimmers of hope. You see what the future can look like. You see why there's so much faith and so much belief that these young arms are going to be the future for this team. And, you're throwing them out there these last couple series, especially against the Dodgers and the Phillies, as good as it gets in Major League Baseball. The Phillies 28-12 now, but I thought Luzardo pitched pretty well. I mean, even that hit to Bryson Stott, and we'll get to him in a minute. I mean, it's barely fair along the right field line. It's a game of inches. If that ball goes foul, maybe we're talking about a completely different ending for Luzardo and the Marlins tonight. But one thing I noticed, man, is they keep coming at you. And I'll keep it right now with the Phillies offense, because you were talking, and I want to talk about Taijuan Walker in a minute because he was fantastic today. Mm-hmm. But you started with Luzardo, and Luzardo against one of the best lineups, if not the best lineup in Major League Baseball. Granted, no Trey Turner, but the Phillies, Dodgers, teams like that, man, you guys have such depth to be able to withstand a loss. Berger gets hurt for the Marlins. He still leads the team in RBIs for 9 of the 10 days he's on the IL. That doesn't happen with a team like the Phillies, right? But I digress. Bryson Stott, man, with a huge game, carried them offensively today. And it wasn't just that hit. He drove in more later.
Yeah, and you know what? One more thing on Luzardo. You're talking about the way he started the game. The Phillies only had 2 hits, I believe it was, going into the 6th inning, which is
3 base runners in 4 innings. Right?
That is insane. But he gets the opportunity, Bryson Stott, and one of the things that he does extremely well in all his time in the big league so far as a young player is he is very patient at the plate, and he'll wait for his pitch. Even if it means going down the count 0-2 or 1-2, he will be patient at the plate. And he had a very similar at bat right before that bases clearing triple where he waited, he fouled off a pitch, and then he actually looked shocked. And I love the picture that you have right there for the thumbnail on YouTube with his helmet almost flying off because he was shocked. He looked shocked that ball was actually going to stay inside the right field line.
And the mullet is king. The mullet is king right there. It had to be in the thumbnail.
It's got to be the mullet and the awful stash. That's got to be something that is just a throwback to the 1993 Macho Row Phillies back in the day. But man, oh man, seeing him just
Dutch
wrap
would
that
be
inside
proud,
the line.
man.
Extremely proud about a guy that both our fan bases love, I'm sure. But yeah, seeing him be able to come around on that and keep that ball fair was absolutely fantastic. Then he added another one for a 4 RBI day. The guy is a professional hitter. He is off to a slow start, and he is just starting to put it together over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he is. And, it's pretty cool. I'm trying to give myself more light here. Let there be light. Let there be light on the Marlins season.
Oh, look at you.
Light on me. I'm sitting here, and I have to tell you guys, like, you're watching the show, Locked On Marlins Postcast, Locked On Phillies Postcast, Farzy, Gries. I mean, we just do nicknames around here. We're radio guys. I love the shows that you do back in Philly, Baldy, and I love that, bro, because, we got here. But I'm sitting here bathing in floodlights. I feel like I stole 6 cars over a weekend and they finally got me. And I look dark. I don't understand this. This is just one of those things where my camera has decided that no matter how much I illuminate myself, this is as light as I get. Probably doing everybody a little bit of a favor too, you don't really see the features too well.
You're improvising, man. I love it. You got to think on your feet a little bit in this broadcasting game.
I tried. It didn't work, man. I tried the iPhone light. You turn it around. Even that didn't work.
Yeah, right. But you're going with it, man. You just got to roll with the punches. That's how it goes. The show must go on.
I do the Marlins Postcast, man. Rolling with the punches is my occupation.
I need to ask you a question here. I just have to ask you this question. Sure. Jazz Chisholm, as a guy that watches him from afar, somebody asked me if I wanted him on the Phillies. If something happened, the trade deadline, would I want him on the Phillies? Phillies have a log jam when it comes to outfield positions, especially when it comes to the center field spot because they're so high and mighty on Johan Rojas, and Cristian Pache had himself a game today. But Jazz, if he plays for your team, is he one of those guys that he puts on your jersey and you just love him automatically? What goes on there?
Yeah, you like him a lot. You like him a lot. He gives you day in and day out. And I love what Skip did, moving him up to the leadoff spot when they traded Luis Ariz to the Padres, which was a little early to start dumping. You know what I mean? And you got a guy who was a 2-time defending batting champ. He just got him from the Twins and brought him in last year. And, De La Cruz was starting to hit the ball spraying around in the 2-hole. But it started with Ariz getting on base and, making things happen at the top of the order. So then he gets traded and you move Chisholm right up there, which, is not easy to do. And he comes into the leadoff spot, and he's been hitting pretty good lately. I mean, he's been starting to see the ball better. He's been starting to get a little bit more patient in the leadoff spot. He's going to see more pitches. So, yeah, I like him. I think that he's a great teammate and a good guy to have. So, you're not really looking at the numbers right now. I think he's going to end up somewhere else. I think he's going to help a contending team before the year's over.
Hey, look, we've been there. The Phillies teams have certainly been there over the years where we have looked at players that we have liked in the city of brotherly love and been like, you just know at the deadline they're going to get moved. If they can bring you something back for a team that might be rebuilding or going through some struggles, you look at those players and go, we're going to miss them when they're gone. But we've certainly been through that as well in Philadelphia.
Without a doubt. And this new version of the Phillies that are, spending all that cash with a big team. And, you got Harper, you got Turner, you got some of the real elite players in the game. And, it's crazy. And Schwarber's not even hitting, right? So,
well, yeah, out of the game today, a little back tightness.
Back tightness.
Yeah, he is him hitting over 200 is like 300 to everybody else. So in my mind, he's hitting 317, not 217.
He's like a softball hitter.
He absolutely is a beer league softball guy through and through. But one of the things that we were looking at last year with the banning of the shift, so to speak, was how is that going to help a guy like Kyle Schwarber? Last year didn't help him at all. This year, it seems to be helping him a little bit. He had 42 singles last year. He's already at about 23 this year. So the singles are coming, which is not the goal, but it's nice to at least see that he's putting the ball through the right side of the infield because he only pulls the ball. And then the home runs, Kyle Schwarber doesn't hit home runs automatically until the month of June. The fact that he's got
come in bunches too.
The fact that he's got 9 now, I am very happy about that because he is contractually obligated to hit at least 11 home runs in the month of June. It's a must-happen.
It's unbelievable, right? And so you see him in June, right? And it should be like a softball game where he hits too many home runs and they just start becoming outs. You ever see that?
Yeah.
I used to play softball. You hit a home run, it's an out after 2 home runs in the game or 3 or whatever. That's what they should do to him in June. You're watching your Locked On Marlins postcast. You are watching your Locked On Phillies postcast, Locked On Sports Miami, Locked On Sports Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, or as I used to call it in my sports radio days, the city of universal hatred for all mankind. You're also listening wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeart. You know the deal by now, and love being here in 2 cities. My name's Jim Grieshaber. Call me Gries. Marc Farzetta with us, and we want to thank you for making Locked On Sports Philadelphia, Locked On Sports Miami your first listen every day. We are free, and we're available wherever you get your podcasts, plus on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we are just getting started. It's your Locked On Marlins postcast, Locked On Phillies postcast crossover. We're going to do this tomorrow again as well. And maybe the Phillies will have some mercy. The Phils 8, the Marlins 3 today. And now without the bumper, we don't have the bumper, but we do have the overlay, and we don't need anything but the overlay to tell you about our friends at Stitch Fix, proud sponsors of what we do here on Locked On. And I am really excited to talk about Stitch Fix with you. It's instant. The confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good, right? I mean, Farzy knows this. Come on, we're talking about all this already. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. You get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They can make you look fly no matter what. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You just give your stylist your size, your style, your budget. You order boxes when you want and how you want. No subscriptions required. They just send 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. Keep what works and you send back the rest. It is that easy. Stitch Fix makes it that easy. When you don't like to shop, save you that time and effort. And if you don't love something, you just send it back. Farzy, shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB. Get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB. That's like Peter Piper picked a peck of whatever he said for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Wow, that was a tongue twister there, man.
A little bit. But happy accident. This shirt, no lie, from Stitch Fix.
Wow.
Stitch Fix sent me this shirt.
That's what you call product placement right there. Look what we do for our sponsors.
No, it's a happy accident. I actually use Stitch Fix because it's fantastic. So if you like this shirt, Stitch Fix, baby.
All right. Well, you got a couple commercials to read in the next break. Farzy,
yes, sir.
We're rolling on with your Locked On Marlins postcast, your Locked On Phillies postcast. 2 teams heading in very opposite directions in the same division. And the Phillies are heading in a good direction. Obviously, you know that. The Marlins, not so much. I mean, the Phillies, we just talked about their win streak, man. What has it been that happened since April 15th? They kind of started the season up and down and down and up and just cross that line. And then all of a sudden they flip a switch on April 13th and they're 20-5 since then.
They have gotten the big hit is what happened. And a lot of those big hits came from Alec Boehm, who has been on absolute fire. A couple hits today. Bryson Stott has started to figure it out. Nick Castellanos has started to figure it out over the last couple of weeks. Bryce Harper had his 3rd kid and all of a sudden had some super duper dad strength come upon him. And he has been hitting the cover off the ball as well. He's been working walks also. They've gotten
just not today.
Just not today. Today, horrible example. But over the course
of Luzardo against a lefty man with that slider. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty.
Who you are. Yeah.
But here's what's interesting. So I was joking about, reporting the news as far as Kyle Schwarber goes with the home runs in June. The whole team over the last 3 seasons, has waited till June to go, oh, I guess our spring training's over. The season starts. And I don't know why that is the case, but that has been the case. And it was a huge storyline for the Phillies in spring training that they had to start out strong. They couldn't just let the Braves, most notably, just go out there and run away with the division in the early goings. So the Phillies had a concrete plan that they announced that they had to start out strong. They have not lost a series now. Now that they clinched this series, they have not lost a series since the second series of the season, Gries.
That's absurd.
It's bonkers. And the pitching staff has been absolutely amazing.
Well, let's put more teams in the playoffs. How about that, Farzy? We'll just put more teams in the playoffs so some team can get hot at the end of the season for a week, win 70 games, and go to the World Series.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Just everyone make the playoffs.
Never mind the regular season. It doesn't matter that the Phillies are winning 2 out of 3. I mean, come on. More than that since April 15th. But, and they've done it without, I mean, you mentioned Bohm, obviously, but without anybody else going ballistic. Just him.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild. The only people you could really say go ballistic are the guys in the rotation. And the bullpen hasn't been terrible either, but everybody, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez is the leader right now in the clubhouse for Cy Young. I mean, he's been a good pitcher. He went through a couple of stretches last season. Exactly. But he went through a couple of months last year, 1 month where he had at least 6 innings and 5 straight starts, allowing no more than 2 runs. And he had another month like that later in the season. I want to say it was August. For him to come out of the gates the way he has this year is absolutely phenomenal. And then the Phillies actually have trouble where they have Spencer Turnbull coming out here, and he all of a sudden is pitching phenomenally well through his first 5 starts. Just incredible. And they got to make the decision, well, we're paying Taijuan Walker $72 million over 4 or 5 years. I forget which. Oh, we got to get him back in the rotation. He comes back in the rotation. And I'll say this. The line looks really good. The 8 hits does not look good, but the line for the most part looks really good. And he has pitched well since he has come back. There's been a couple instances to get into a specific here. Rob Thompson has not been protecting him. He's always let him go out there for 1 more inning. So I like that he took him out a little earlier, even though the pitch count was low. I like that he took him out because he allowed him to say, hey, I did my job today. I didn't give up that 7th inning.
Don't mess up a great start. Let him keep his confidence. Yeah.
And that's something that Rob Thompson.
So much of that is pitching so much, mental and his mind state going into that next start. I love that too. Keep his confidence up. Don't give him a chance to get ripped toward the end of a start. And that happened to Weathers the other day with the Marlins. Pitched great. Then all of a sudden gives up a 2-run hit late in that start. It happens so many times, but you're playing that game of when do you take him out? When do you leave him in? Managers these days, Farsley, seem to fall in love with pitching so many pitchers in every game. And you see 4 or 5 pitchers. It's not uncommon in every single game for each team. But you're going to have your Schwarber month in June, right? Harper is going to carry you like a maniac at some point this season. So as a Philly fan, you're 2 games up on the Braves, 4 games up in the win column, and you haven't had that Harper time yet. And the Schwarber time's coming, but you have had the pitching, as you said. But it's crazy when you think about the number of guys they have on this team who can literally carry an offense for a stretch of a season. And you're going to be able to count on that at some point in time. So if you do the math and do the projections out, as long as everybody stays healthy, this is a 100-win team.
I think this Phillies team, could break their 102-win season, which is their all-time record. And that's when Roy Halladay was pitching. That's when Cliff Lee was pitching. That's when Ryan Howard was playing first, Chase Utley, Carlos Ruiz, all these guys. But to your point, when you talk about this team and you talk about the depth of this team, you look at the last 2 games of this series. I don't know if there's a better example, no offense, Marlins fans, than the last 2 games of this series where you're 7, 8, and 9 hole hitters, Gries, combined for 11 hits, a home run, 5 RBI. That's not a bad 7, 8, 9 hitters. When you're talking about Cristian Pache and Mundo Sosa, and you're talking about Johan Rojas.
Yep.
That's incredible. But I have to
homer today.
I have to ask you this question. Good Lord. Because if I was a Marlins fan, I'd be, it happened to Alec Boehm too, but it happened mostly with the Marlins. You guys jump out on Taijuan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone gets thrown out at second base. What the heck's with that? What's going on there? What was going on?
I will say this. The Marlins this year, from what I've seen, are one of the worst base running teams I've seen in a while. They're constantly running themselves out of innings, trying to take the extra base. Even as recently as a couple of weeks ago when Arias was here, they actually had an inning, okay? I'm going to illustrate, Farzy. If you start an inning with back-to-back singles and then a double, what do you think the likelihood and the numerical probability is that you're not going to score? Single, double to start an inning. I can't hear you. You just
sorry. Next to impossible. You're scoring. You have to score.
That off. The Marlins pulled that off. You had Gries and De La Cruz single, and then you had who was it? I think it was actually Chisholm who hit the double. And Gries gets thrown out at home. Next guy up hits into a double play. Single, double, no runs scored. It's been that kind of year. It happens all the time. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, the Marlins, a couple guys thrown out. And it really is a shame because that's something you see the efforts there, right? But the just being smart as a team, just having that instinct and just you've seen good base running teams. And that's an art. So I don't know what that is. To me, it comes down to the individual player. But you wouldn't expect that you would ever work on that again coming out of spring training. And that just seems like a basic that should never go wrong. And it's been way too often this year.
Yeah, I know the Phillies have gotten thrown out of the base paths a lot this year. And I know they got thrown out of the base paths a lot last year, too. It's like if the Phillies can avoid those moments that we've all talked about this with our teams. You stop shooting yourselves in the foot, and that's when you can start winning games. When the Phillies don't shoot themselves in the foot, that's when they win games. And to your point, there was a game against the Angels, the Phillies had last week where they had 10 free base runners on walks, hit by pitch, whatever the case was. They scored, I believe it was 1 run. One run. And they even were given that run on a balk with a man on third. And they, of course, weren't able to win that game. One of the few times we've looked at it this season where we've said, stop shooting yourselves in the foot. And then they finally did it. Then, of course, they get a game when they only get, I think, 3 hits and manage a win. Baseball's a funny game, Gries.
And they can stay this hot all year, though. I mean, and you're gonna have games like that, right? You're gonna have games where you get 3 hits and you win 4-1. You're gonna have games when you get 12 hits and you score 1 run. And it's just a crazy, crazy game that way. And then you get pitchers who get in jams and then they can get the ground balls. Just like hitters have a knack for getting the big hit, you have pitchers who have the knack for making the big pitch when they need to. And I think I see a lot of that in Luzardo. I see a lot of that in Cabrera. I think the Marlins are going to be okay. I think they're going to be steady throughout the year. But the thing is, Farzy, their offense is just anemic. And when your offense is anemic, and I talked about this with Pete, with the Dodgers too, when your offense is anemic and you don't have a 20 home run hitter in your lineup, right? You cannot afford to run yourself out of innings. You have to find a way to advance runners, to score runs, because you don't have that guy in your lineup who's just going to mash all over. The Phillies have 3 or 4 of them. The Dodgers have 3 or 4 of them. And then the other players below them are like the Marlins middle of their lineup, and the players that they're surrounding themselves with. So the Marlins need that. And of course, Soler was the guy, and he's not here anymore. So I don't know what the answer is for this team right now, but I don't think they're looking for an answer to be successful and to win this year. I don't think that's even in the cards anymore. I'm not saying Skip's that way. I'm not saying the players. I'm talking about the Marlins front office strategy for the rest of the year. They've already shown the trade of Gries is going to be to say, how can we set ourselves up for the future? Right. Both Farzy on the field and maybe more so at this point from the business standpoint, financially speaking. And, that's just, it is what it is. You're a Marlins fan. You're used to it by now. You better be, you better be.
Is there a guy that you guys are looking at right now where you're just saying, all right, I want this guy to develop. This guy could be that future piece, if not to build around, be one of those building blocks? Is there a guy you're looking at right now that does that for the Marlins?
Not that I see. No. I mean, it's one of those. I don't see that on this.
Been there, brother. Been there.
I just don't. I mean, I've been saying it for over a week now. In order to have a fire sale, you must first have something that people want to buy. Right. Doesn't matter what. I mean, you could just you could say, hey, 99% off at the dollar store. Still not going to get me in there. Sorry, dollar store. Not a sponsor though. We're okay.
Josh Bell, moving Bell around somewhere.
I mean, I like Bell. Yeah, he's got a lot of potential, man, but he hasn't been able to put it together this year. I like Chisholm a lot too. See, you're going to get me going, and I don't want to attack these young guys. I love the young players. I love seeing them develop, and I don't mean to do that. But at the same time, you asked me a question, and I have to tell you the truth. I think more in the rotation than anything.
It's part of the ball community. We can't lie to one another.
Ball community, and when you, I mean, the hitters, they don't excite me. on this team. They just don't, man. And I don't know that anybody, and you talked about the Dodgers, or we talked with the Dodgers over the weekend, and then talking with you guys, the outfields are loaded. So you're not going to take corner outfielders that don't hit 20 homers anyway if you're a contending team, right? Are you? I don't think so.
Not really.
It's the blueprint, right?
No.
And so you start looking at the arms of the Marlins, and you start looking at Ryan Weathers, who's got a lot of promise, Trevor Rogers, Luzardo. I mean, Cabrera, I like him a lot. Everybody's really excited about Sixto. But, the bullpen hasn't been bad lately either. So teams are always looking for that middle of the bullpen help, the short relief guys, and even the long relief guys. They've got some pretty good arms in there. Maldonado, who gave up a run today, but wasn't charged with it. So they've been pitching pretty well lately out of the pen. So if you're looking for anything from the Marlins, I would think it would be pitching.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You want me to hit Policy Genius here, friend?
Yeah, real quick. I was just going to say something, but I can't find it. I probably should have kept that to myself. Yeah, go ahead.
It's our first time working together. It's our first time.
The brilliance we bring to the table here at Locked On.
Absolutely.
Speak for yourself, Gries.
Let me tell you about Policy Genius, because we all know that life insurance is important. It's an important safety net, really, for your family. But trying to find the right policy for your own, well, you know what? That can be time-consuming, overwhelming, and let's face it, a little bit confusing as well. So that's why we are very lucky to have Policy Genius. It's the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you could find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. That's how thorough and that's how efficient Policy Genius is. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Here's all you have to do. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. Or click on the link in the description of this show and get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save with Policy Genius. Once again, policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB.
Locked On MLB, and I might need that life insurance if I walk into the Marlins clubhouse. These setup questions from these crazy Philly guys. Man, I'll tell you what, and let me do this. I'm going to tell you what, and Farzy, we know what tomorrow is, don't we? You see what I just threw up there, brother. Tomorrow, what are you doing, man? What's the deal? I'm lucky in one sense, right? My mom just left this morning. That's not why I'm lucky. I'm going to get to why I'm lucky. My mom's been here for 2 weeks, and my son graduated college, and so forth. We've been hanging out. So long story short, man, I've been spending great times with my mom, just taking care of her, but I'm still going to take care of her even more tomorrow. We're going to tell everybody how in a minute. And the way that I'm lucky is that my lady, my significant other, for the first time ever, after being married for 24 years and then having another girl, my third time is a charm because this girl doesn't have kids. So I don't have to worry about her on Mother's Day. I only have one. And then even I can just get on my phone, hit that DoorDash app, Farzy, and bang, there it goes.
DoorDash is fantastic, Gries. It's fantastic. You want me to proceed and tell the good people about DoorDash?
Well, I think we're going to do it together, right? Because you have a mom, I have a mom. We all have moms.
Yes, I love my mom, Eleanor. She's a saint. Don't think she is, you know what I'm saying? And we take care of each other. We take care of ourselves with DoorDash, with all the convenience and all the great stuff that we have going on there. But have you thought about DoorDash, flowers, all that stuff?
Candy,
what mom
right
doesn't love? What mom doesn't love all of that? And when you think about that, how about this? All right, you know DoorDash, you know it well. Well, if you use promo code LOCKEDONMLB, you get 50% off your next order and up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on that next flower arrangement for mom there, Gries.
You know what? The flower arrangement could be 45 and you're going to get it for 30. That's that University of Miami degree kicking in right there, Farzy.
That's perfect.
Baby.
Just make sure you use Locked On MLB. That's Locked On MLB. DoorDash terms apply. Let's not forget about that. And you can get those thoughtful gifts that mom deserves with the convenience that we all need, especially your busy life, Gries. I know you're bouncing off the walls, friend.
Well, just doing this show every day after Marlins games when they can't hit. That's the problem. But see, now I really need that life insurance. I get in that clubhouse. But no, it's awesome, man. And mom deserves it. And in this day and age, there's literally, Farzy, and I mean literally no excuse to not send mom something because DoorDash has taken everything out of it that could possibly construed as an excuse for you. There's a PSA on top of a spot. How about that?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So make sure you download DoorDash and use it. Promo code Locked On MLB, and you'll have yourself a great time when it comes to DoorDash.
DoorDash is the happiest company in the history of the world because that was like a 47-minute spot that we just did for them.
Poetry, baby.
The
Poetry.
day before Mother's Day, too, Farzy. And the Phillies give all the moms out there a win streak. They give them a win today. And, wrapping up the series tomorrow, what's it? Is it 110 or 140 first pitch? I can't remember.
I am leaning on 135 start time, 140 start time tomorrow. Yeah, 140 start time tomorrow between the Marlins and the Phillies. In South Philly, Zach Wheeler goes against Braxton
Garrett.
Garrett.
I was going to say, you're struggling. You can't hit anything, and you get Wheeler coming at you. That's helpful. Thanks, guys.
Well, don't try to take second base so often, and maybe the good things will come to you. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they just want to get to second base. You don't know what the struggle's been for this team.
It was like
second base, and it's like Tom Hanks in Castaway when he lost the volleyball. No.
Honestly, this is where my because I'm a history nerd, right? I was like, this is like the Odyssey and the Sirens of Syracuse, was it? It was like, yes, come to the rocks. Come to the rock. Boom, boat crashes. Guy gets thrown out at second base is the way that went down. By the way, you mentioned Sixto Sanchez. Do you guys have any buyer's remorse when it comes to trading JT Realmuto for Sixto?
What did you bring this up for? I mean, this is just nonstop negativity.
Well, because Phillies fans talk about it a lot. Even though we love JT Realmuto, and he fits in very well with
very good fit on this team, yeah.
Oh yeah. But people will talk about prospects a lot. But Sixto, he's had the injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
He was fluctuating weight wise. Am I being nice saying that?
You're being nice.
Okay.
I mean, this is a South Beach diet. You know how that goes. It's a little prime 12 mixed in.
But is there optimism that he'll soon get to the level that he was once at?
I mean, 6 feet 234. We're working on Bartolo Colon status here. You know what I mean? It's
but
I mean, Bartolo, it worked out for him. Speaking of softball hitters, how great was he when he would pinch hit? But I think that I try to just give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I like to see Sixto get it going. I talk about and you bring up a great point. So I want to close with this, at least from my end, Farzy. When you have a low payroll and you have a team like this, they made the playoffs a year ago. You can't afford to miss with anything. If anybody has a year that you project, right? You have to project. And if any of those players have a year that doesn't match those projections, you're almost screwed. Any of those players, any one of those players. Injuries, at one point in time a week ago, the Marlins had 47% of their innings pitched from last year on the IL at one time. So you can't afford injuries. You can't afford to be wrong about anything. And when you are, this is what you get. It happens, and you can't. There's no room for error. There's just not. And when you're the Phillies, when you're the Dodgers, when you're the Yankees, when you're these teams right now, not the Astros though. When you're those teams, you have a lot of margin and a lot of room for error. But the Marlins just don't have any.
Copy that. Understood. If I had to close with anything to the Phillies fans, it's you just hope they just keep this going. There's a challenge. Even when teams are playing well, there's always been a challenge with the Phillies. And the Marlins have been a challenge for the Phillies. Last year, Phillies were one game under 500 against the Marlins. And then, of course, they were able to step up their own game in the postseason. They were able to step up their own game against the Braves. But the big thing is, if you're going to win, you got to win in your division. And that's something the Phillies have struggled mightily with the only team they were able to beat in their division last year with any consistency, unfortunately, was the Washington Nationals. So this is something the Phillies taking 2 out of 3 at to this point against the Marlins. I'll take as a huge win for the Phillies right now. That's what I'll say about the Phillies.
If I told you when you were coming out of Clearwater Beach that the Phillies would be 4 games in the win column ahead of Atlanta and 2 games overall on this day, would you have taken that? No questions asked?
And no questions asked. I would gobble that up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think any Philly fan would. And keep doing what you're doing, Philly fans. The superstitions, whatever you're doing, they're working. And I want to remind you, speaking of work, in a show that you will see Farzy on, but not me, at least not during baseball season. During the Heat playoffs, I was on a few times. Not anymore. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel that I used to be on, and I won't be again until the fall, on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you. It's 24/7. It's covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today available on the free TV Channels app. Farzy, any final thoughts? We'll talk to the fans again tomorrow after this series ender on Mother's Day.
Good to go, brother. This is a blast, Gries. Thank you.
All right, make sure hit that DoorDash for Mom on Mother's Day. It's tomorrow, and we will talk to you then. You have been watching Locked On Marlins Postcast, Locked On Phillies Postcast, the crossover. Well, you might have been listening to it. Not all of you are watching, but you know, I don't know. I mean, you really should see us. You have to see us to believe us. And maybe tomorrow you can check us out that way. We will be back tomorrow. It's 1:40 Eastern. First pitch in Miami. The Phils and the Marlins wrapping up the 3-gamer before mercifully the Phillies leave town. Thank you very much. Keep your game tight and your mind right, baseball fans. We are done.